Today we're going to be looking at my updated model for the 2024 election and what it shows as of right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And so this is what my current election model has for the presidential election. It has Donald Trump winning 312 electoral college votes to Kamala Harris's 226. Now I know previously earlier today I did have it at 327 electoral college votes. However, I basically have gone back to the 2020 model and basically applied the error of every single state and how incorrect it was to the 2024 model and kind of made sure that the models aligned with each other. And this is the result that I am now getting in the electoral college, as well as all of the new polling data that has kind of surfaced since earlier today. The national aggregate also got like about a point closer, so that's why you may see these states change in what the latest forecast would be. And Virginia is now in the likely Democrat column. I even think New York is now in the safe Democrat column as well, believe it or not. But we're going to look at the 2020 model. This is my result for the 2020 presidential election model. And we see Joe Biden gets 279 electoral college votes to Trump's 259. The only two states that are incorrect are Arizona and Georgia, which would have perfected the model. However, when it comes to stuff like this, it would have been very, very difficult to have been able to get a result so accurate to that, because I actually don't use state polls at all in this model. This model does not use any state polling whatsoever. What it uses is a website called Civics, which basically tracks the approval rating of the major party candidates at the top of the ticket and the national spread in their favorabilities. For example, Joe Biden was leading Trump in favorability by 2 points before election day, the day before, and you basically look at all the favorable differences in the data and you basically plug that into the model, and that pretty much gives you what would be the final result in the electoral college. And you see Georgia obviously was about like 1.5 points off. Arizona was about less than a point off or so. And so that's basically what we see here. The model, I mean, is better than 538. It's better than all these other models that were out here essentially. I mean, it's not perfect. Some of the, the toss-up states are Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, and Arizona. I mean, it's not perfect in any stretch of the imagination, but compared to most models like 538 and all these other models, we were far better than what any other person would have had for this election. If we go to how the model works, what you do is you basically plug in the national aggregate in RCP. You look at the swing of the popular vote from the previous election compared to the national aggregate. And what happens is we have a demographic model that is calculated using polling and our own analysis, the approval rating difference between each of the candidates in each of the states for the Civics website. And we look at the 2012 and 2016 results, and you find the swing in the trend in every single state. And that's able to help you calculate a very accurate result. Alabama here was only about 2 points off. Alaska was about 2 points more Republican than the actual result. Arizona was literally off by less than a point. So was Arkansas. So was the state of Delaware, not too far off. Colorado was a little bit incorrect, and you can't really blame us. I mean, the approval rating difference wasn't that big. The 2012 and 2016 results were pretty close. The only thing that really would have indicated it basically shifting to the left would have been the trend, but really none of the data points would have indicated it being a double-digit point victory. And I have to be consistent and not use any state polling data. Florida here is about a point win. And so that's how this part of the model works. You basically have these factors combined, and the approval rating I found is about, correlated about 70% to the actual results. So the approval rating differences on average were about 70% accurate. And since that's the data point that basically changes the most, that is the part of the model here that is weighed the most accurately. The demographic model in the previous elections basically barely make up any of the model at all. And these don't really change. The only things that change are the demographic model and the approval rating difference. And the demographic model, it's not exact, but it kind of helps, with certain states. Like if a state is really, really close and it like barely goes to a certain candidate, the demographic model can make a difference in that. And then we have the second part of the model, which goes back a few elections. It goes back an extra cycle to kind of track the the trends long term. And you basically find the shift between 3 different elections, and then you apply that and you get the vote relative to the nation. And then when you apply the favorability difference, you kind of get the results that are roughly similar to the election for the most part. Not exact, but somewhat similar to what the electoral college results would have been. And then if you go over here, this is basically what you get in the electoral college. This is where those results average out and you get the results listed over here. The popular vote would have only been 0.4 percentage points off. So our popular vote margin would have been very, very close. And if you even look here, we have something called an elasticity score. So it basically looks at the shift here, and we basically find the median of that shift, and we basically go ahead and find what the elasticity score would be, and then that kind of gives us a good idea of where everything would basically end up. And now we basically end up having, Georgia R+2. I mean, that's sort of off, but it's within margin of error. A lot of these are within margin of error. Minnesota within 3 points, Michigan within like 3, New Hampshire within 2, Nevada within 2 points. North Carolina is actually spot on. Some of these are pretty accurate. Ohio's like a fourth of a point off. Texas is off by 2 to the right. Virginia was actually off by 3. So that is interesting. And Wisconsin was like almost on the dot. So a lot of these are not that bad. I mean, here's the map right here. This is the 2020 model put on a map right here. New Hampshire should be likely. I don't know why I had it safe, but this is basically what that would show. And when we have the exact same thing for 2024, Harris is down in the aggregate by 0.3%. in RCP. We also have the swing of the popular vote be 4.8 percentage points, and we have Donald Trump ahead of Harris by 1 in the favorability ratings on civics. And this is what you essentially get. This is the electoral college result that you now get, which is the one that I basically have listed right here. Donald Trump is winning Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, all by under 5 points. Harris is doing good in Minnesota, New Mexico, Nebraska, and New Hampshire, but not as well as Biden did in that election. I mean, he won Minnesota by 7 points. Harris is only up here by 3. So that's not necessarily that great, considering that she's underperforming him by quite a bit. I mean, Michigan's a 2-point win for Trump. He's winning Wisconsin by 3. Pennsylvania is almost a 5-point win, and it's actually picking up something interesting here. It's kind of picking up the fact, I guess the demographic model in a way is kind of picking up the fact that the state of Wisconsin may actually be stagnant in its trend this cycle, which I think is the case. And I think Pennsylvania is going to trend to the right because of African Americans coming out for Donald Trump there in the Philadelphia proper, as well as in Nevada. That's definitely going to help with white working class voters. But we clearly see the model when you adjust for error. You can see here that I have the error from the 2020 model applied to each parts of the model, and then we basically end up getting the combined errors applied, and this is what we get for the results. So Texas is about a 9.3 percentage point victory for Trump. Florida is around 10.3. Now, if we would have had the same data we had 2 weeks ago, which had Trump ahead, I believe it was 5.8 in the aggregate or something like that, or I think it was 4.7. Like, it was something pretty crazy. I think it was something to that extent. So I think he would have been leaning by 9.2 percentage points. And then if you would have had the favorability difference, which I believe Trump was ahead by like 8, this is the electoral college map you would have. Trump would be winning the popular vote by 5. He'd be winning New Mexico. He'd be ahead in New Hampshire, Minnesota. He'd be ahead in a couple of these states, as well as Georgia and Arizona by a decent amount. And if you notice, Georgia's voting to the left of Arizona by a significant amount. That's because of the approval rating difference. Donald Trump's spread of favorability against Harris is way bigger than his against Biden. I actually think Biden does worse in the spread in Georgia than Arizona than Trump does with Harris. So it's kind of like a reverse. Like, I think Trump in the approval rating difference was ahead by quite a bit in Georgia, by like 11 or 12, and he was only down by like 9 here. So if you would basically apply that, it would pretty much almost shift it. You would see here it's around 7.8, that's around 6.9. So clearly there is a bit of a shift here when it comes to the approval rating difference. Clearly Harris has a unique point of strength in the state of Georgia, whether you like it or not. and Virginia is becoming very, very liberal. And so she would have to basically, he would have to be doing very well in the aggregate to possibly even get something close to what he got. What we were going to project the 4 states like New York, New Jersey, Maine's first, Colorado, Illinois. I wouldn't even really worry about this anymore for the Trump campaign, just because of the fact that they're trending so far left at this point that I really doubt that they would be able to fall into the column. And either way, even if I were to get rid of the historical errors here, it wouldn't even matter, because it wouldn't even change the results by that much. Like, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. Like, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference if I were to get rid of these. So, like, literally, I could go ahead and show you guys, if I were to get rid of the errors for the model, like, it's not that completely different. Like, it would be like literally a 0.1 percentage point difference. So me adding these errors is not gonna be, oh my god, Trump is doing so much better without the errors. I'm just adding them to correct whatever mistakes the model could have had here. Now, is it gonna have the exact same error this cycle? I mean, definitely not, but it's not like we can't ignore the fact that the model has to be corrected for to some extent. And so we clearly see a shift going on here for the most part. There's something clearly going on in the electorate. And so Donald Trump wins the popular vote by 0.7%. All of these swing states are effectively within the margin of error. So this is the point in time where I tell everybody to not be complacent, to go out and cast your ballot, because this election is now going to be decided by a couple of hundred of thousands of votes across these swing states. And so if you guys did enjoy this analysis of my updated election model, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.